We have an expert in the experience of being human today, Stephen Nyman, who's made 4 Olympic teams. He is a 3-time winner on the World Cup in downhill. He is also an 11-time podium performer.
I mean, I didn't know if I'd ski this long, but this year I think my oldest is getting it. And it was funny. She likes to see the red. And when it's the red, it's obviously you're behind. When you're in the green, you're ahead. And one of the races, Nell, my oldest daughter, Dad had a lot of red. And she goes, "That was a lot of red, but we still love him." So, I mean, it's cool. She absolutely loves me and gets it, and it's tons of fun. If I win, great. If not, she totally loves me and thinks I'm a hero, and I'm all about it.
Hi, I'm Chris Waddell. Welcome to Living It, the podcast where we join experts in the experience of being human. Be bold. Say yes to adventure. Say yes to living it. Welcome to Chris Waddell Living It, where we talk with experts in the experience of being human. We have an expert in the experience of being human today, Stephen Nyman, who's made 4 Olympic teams, only got to compete in 3 of them. We'll talk about that. He is a 3-time winner on the World Cup in downhill. He is also an 11-time podium performer. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to getting into the story.
Thanks for having me, and it's good to see you once again.
It is good to see you, exactly. And you know what? I'm going to do a quick aside as we do it, because I think you gave me one of the greatest moments in my skiing career. You probably have no idea that you actually did this. So this was back when we were at a fundraising event in Mammoth, and we had like that skier cross thing, one person skier cross. And I remember Eric Fisher saying that he was more scared at the top of that than he was at the top of the Honeycomb, which was probably generous of him to say, but I know my heart was definitely beating. And I hit some bump and did like the full rodeo thing, like hand over my head or whatever. And I think you were on the chairlift above me, and we're like, woohoo. And I was like, oh, well, if these guys think it's cool, I better keep going.
I remember that. I think that fundraiser, I also was skiing on powder skis in the dual GS and was beating my teammates who were on GS skis, and they're like, "We're trying to beat you and we can't beat you." And I was like, I went to my technician. I said, "Hey, I think I'm a better GS skier on these powder skis than I am on GS skis. So we got to fix them."
Got to fix something or move to powder skis instead of GS skis.
There you go.
Could be worthwhile. Well, this has been a big week, right? I mean, just with the naming of the team to the Olympics, how does that go down for you? Is this part of the sport? Because unfortunately you weren't named to the team. Is there still like a fingers crossed that there might be one more quota spot coming, or is that kind of done? Or
there's been a lot of talks back and forth of if they open up more quota spots. There's been some sketchy races that occurred right before the Olympics that all of a sudden these guys who weren't even close to scoring low enough points scored a bunch of low points, and we thought we'd get reallocated spots and I would make it, but it didn't happen. And yeah, it's a bummer. That was a big motivator for me to work hard and get back to that level and hopefully qualify for the games. Typically in the past with the old rules, I would have easily qualified for the games, but I didn't, and it's a bummer. But somebody who created these rules was kind of asleep at the wheel and didn't really factor in a few things. But I mean, I've been to 3 Olympics, and I've done a lot of great things in my career, and fortunately I've already accomplished some of those things. But it would have been great to go to another games and shoot for a medal. I've never got an Olympic medal, and that it's a bummer, but you never know. I mean, I have kind of 2 more days on my clock, according to my coaches, and they said once the 30th comes, you're free to go. And I'm supposed to act like I'm going to the games. I'm still testing every day. And if for some reason something happens, I'm ready to ship off to China. If not, I get to go home to my kids, and I'm really excited to do that. It's been hard being away from them for a couple of weeks. So life's good either way.
How old are your kids?
4 and 1, 2 little girls. busy. It's a busy thing. I come from 4 boys, and all my brothers have had girls. There's 7 granddaughters, so it's like chaos when we all get together.
But you didn't really, I mean, like your mother was completely outnumbered in your household.
Yeah.
And now you're outnumbered in your personal household. And you're like, okay, girls, like, how do we deal with girls? Like, I understand the boy thing, but how do we deal with girls? That must be such a change, and probably a super cool change, I would imagine, as well.
I was panicked in the beginning. I was like, oh man, I don't know what to do. Like, I grew up in the mountains. We really didn't have many other families around us, so it was just me and my brothers. And I was like, girls, like, what am I gonna do here? And one of my old race mates, Werner Hill, he was like, oh, girls are the best. You want girls because they'll take care of you forever. And I was like, oh yeah, this is great. And they do. They just absolutely love me. And it's great.
I would imagine you're the biggest guy in the household, but I'd imagine you are not the one in charge.
No, I'm the biggest sucker as well. So
that is awesome. But you were talking about, like, with the Olympics, I mean, that's kind of the carrot that was out there, right? You're coming back from major injury. Is that what you think about as you're going through the process of recovering from an injury, and especially at 40 years old, right? I mean, this gets a little bit more challenging as you try to recover when you're older.
Yeah, I tore my right Achilles last year, and I had intentions to come back quickly, and you don't heal. I tore my left Achilles in 2011, and I mean, 10 years later, you don't heal as fast. So couldn't come back that quick, but I could come back for the Olympic season, and that was my focus. And I had these plans, and I have these intentions and this vision in my head, and obviously it's not coming to pass, which is a big bummer. But to set my sights on something, to work for something, to bring that focus and those daily goals and those long-term goals, and really go for it. That's the process, and that's what I live for. And that competition, just preparing myself and standing in that start gate and saying, okay, you're ready. You can do this now. It's your chance. Like, at times you step in that start gate and you're like, am I ready? Like, you have these doubts. You feel like you want to go crawl in a corner, but then you're like, why do I do all this? What is this for? It's all this training is for this opportunity to express myself on the mountain and go for it. And that's what I live for. That's what I enjoy. And it's not over yet, and I still have a few more races left this season. I just have a big gap right now, and it's kind of weird to think. I'm like, oh man, I got like 3 weeks to kind of figure things out, and then I get back on the World Cup tour. So it's a bummer, and I'm disappointed. And the bummer is, I typically would have made it, but for some reason, it didn't pan out that way, and yeah. It's fine. Life goes on, and I gotta refocus and stay focused on the next goals and keep moving forward.
It's interesting you talk about that preparation for being in the starting gate, because I mean, you're talking about that preparation for being on the razor's edge, like approaching 100 miles an hour. I was watching a podcast with you, and you were talking about Volkoffer, who at Val Gardena went 88 meters off of the jump. 88 meters. So I had to go, because obviously we're not as fluent in meters as we are in feet, but that's 150 feet. Is that what it is? Or no, it's more. More. 88 meters is 288 feet.
Yes. It's almost a football field.
Yeah, almost a football field that you are in the air. So like this kind of stuff, like, I mean, you're talking about preparing and getting ready, but you're talking about things that none of us can really comprehend, because we've never gone 100 miles an hour on skis. And I remember one of my old coaches was a downhill guy named Mike Brown, and he talked about like finishing at the honeycomb, and that your knees start kind of like moving in just because you're going that fast, that the forces that happen on your body. We don't understand that. Like when you're looking at that preparation, coming back from injury, trying to be prepared as you get older, how does that focus crystallize for you?
There was a lot of doubt this season. I came into the season, basically I hadn't raced in almost 2 years, year and 3/4. And it was a lot of time off at my age. I mean, I have a lot of miles underneath me and I understand what I need to do and I understand what's required, but actually doing it and that feeling of knowing what you're capable of is what you are striving for at this level. And I didn't know what I was capable of. I hadn't felt that in a while. With the coronavirus, we're not going to South America. We're not getting really good training. We went to Zermatt. It's on the glacier. The Swiss have the good hill. They let us go on this other hill that's basically 6 really flat turns to 2 steep turns to 6 really flat turns. It's like not legit. So yes, I did some of that, and then we kind of get ready. You're never ready until you really get on the World Cup, and I thought I was fine. And I got to the first World Cup and I realized everything was wrong.
And this is Lake Louise being the first World Cup?
Yes, this is Lake Louise. Skiing's very complex, as you know. And basically my boots weren't lined up right. My skis, over being gone for so long, they changed the models to a very powerful model from the old one that I used to use. And it felt fine through training, but once we got on the World Cup snow that just punches back, it wasn't fine. I wasn't fine. And I was trying to change that feeling with moving the boots in different canting, different ramp angles, different footbeds. I was all over the place. And then basically it took 4 race series in. I was in Bormio, and after Bormio, my teammate Bryce Bennett, who's also on Fisher, my ski company, he had won the week prior and he wasn't even top 30 in Bormio. He really wasn't good except for that one race. And I don't know why or how he did so well there. He was just like, I am so uncomfortable right now and something's wrong. And we hashed it out with my ski technician and basically figured out our tuning was off. In years prior, basically due to my injuries, I was on top of the world. I had 5 of the last 7 podiums. I crashed and tore my ACL, MCL, PCL, lateral compartment, like destroyed my knee. Then the next year crashed and did my other knee. And then a year and a half later, tore my Achilles. So I haven't had a lot of experience lately. But I have a lot of ideas in my head and I have a lot of belief, and I still want to pursue these ideas and go after it. And so anyway, through those injuries, we had kind of got in this web of mess, and the tuning had shifted, and we totally forgot about that. And we went back to this very non-aggressive tuning.
Non-aggressive tuning, is that meaning like that your skis are not as sharp? Is that like not as much of a bevel kind of thing, or like an edge bevel? Or
Yeah. Basically, you detune the tip and tail a lot. When I looked good and I had my boots set up the way I do now, I was so slow. I was like 4 seconds out on these runs, and I did not know what was going on. And it was really, really, really frustrating. And because I looked good but was slow, but then I'd put the boots in and I felt totally awkward, but I'd be fast, but I was not comfortable. And so I was trying to find that level of comfort yet speed. And finally I found that. And we went to Wengen, and I was really fast in the training runs, and then I was decent in the Super G. And then race day came around and it got really warm and I was super slow. I was like 3 and then 4.5 seconds out.
well, you were starting back though too, right?
I was starting in the back, and it gets warmer, and it's definitely a disadvantage. Like the sun bakes there. You don't start the race till 12:30, and it was just a really sunny week, and it was hard. And so the drive home from Wengen to Innsbruck, I rent an apartment. My family lives in Innsbruck with me for the winter. I just was stuck in my own head, like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And we went to Kitzbühel, and I figured it out and felt comfortable, and finally skied on the most notorious course. I skied the way I wanted to ski. I executed the way I wanted to execute. Yes, I was starting in the back. And the first race, I had one big mistake, but other than that, I did what I wanted to do, and I didn't feel awkward doing it. And so that gave me a lot of hope, and my mind is in a different place now. But it's a process, and it takes a long time. And I expected it to be much quicker, but finally I'm in a good place, and it's a motivator. Yet it was too late and not enough results to qualify for the games. And so now I have a little break, be with my family, regain strength, and get ready to finish the year strong.
People don't understand just how specific your setup is, right? Your boots and your skis and your tuning and the flex of the ski and all this stuff. I mean, it's like you're like tuning a race car.
Exactly.
And as a skier, you are going faster under your own power than anyone else. I mean, like as faster than any other athletes. I mean, maybe you have like some skydivers or something like that, but you're having to execute. So it's like tuning a race car. But then as you're recovering from injury, I mean, there have to be the questions of like, has my body changed? Do I have to adapt my skiing as a result of the recovery from this injury? Then there's the technical part. You said you looked good, but you weren't necessarily fast. And that's one of those ski racing things oftentimes where it's like, you know, are you making good turns? Are you all in the right place, but you're not really doing that thing that makes you go fast? And then there's the mental side of it of like, how am I reconciling all of this stuff? And am I focused? Do I have questions, which are sort of understandable when you're not in tune with your equipment, when you're not necessarily in tune with your body? How did that process work? Like just balancing all that stuff and staying sane doing it?
I think I went insane a few times through this process. But what I know when I'm skiing the fastest is when I have that feeling, I have that tempo, I have that connection with my equipment, I have that belief that the preparation is there, my body can withstand what I'm setting out to do. I'm a downhiller, and in downhill we get to have those inspection runs, and then inspection runs, and then also trial runs down the mountain to kind of test line and see what you've got. And then we're filming everybody else and see who's the fastest, and then you can try and copy that or whatnot. But once you have that connection, once you understand the way your skis are going to react and everything's aligned, and you have that pace in your body, and that vision to where you see where you need to start the turn, and you're willing to go to those points and strive for more speed, that's great. Then you're in these scenarios where you see guys that go faster than you, or you are the fastest in those sections, when you're trying to become the fastest in those sections, and you're seeing what these guys are doing, and then you go down there in inspection and you see their line they took, and you're like, I don't get it, I can't do it. that's hairy. And that's when you're like, am I willing to do that? Am I willing to push there? And if there's times where you can try that and go beyond yourself, and if the risk factor is too high, things can go sideways. But to me, what I really enjoy is when you see that thing, and if you do believe in it, and you do believe you're capable of it, and then just going out there and doing it and setting your mind to it, and just going at it with full conviction, that's super special. Or if you see that, and to me, I've learned over the years that if I see that and I have question, back off, like find something that you know you can go to with 100% conviction, and do that with 100% conviction. You're going to be faster doing something you believe in than something with a little doubt that is supposedly the fastest line. As long as you're going with that full commitment that's what's important. And then you're just going to drive and fight for more speed. And that's a special place to be in, is when you have that's the zone. When you have that feeling, when you have that confidence within yourself, and you're just going for it and putting your best efforts out there. That's what's the most important thing right now.
That's when you're safe though, too, right?
Oh, exactly. You're moving over the skis. Skis aren't taking you for a ride. You're taking the skis for a ride. When the skis are taking you for a ride, that's a little scary.
That is a lot scary. Yes, that's not a good place to be, and it definitely is not a safe place to be. What are your triggers, like when you to get yourself into that mindset? Because I mean, I've always known the start of a ski race is like where all your demons come to meet you, right? Like all your insecurities, like, oh, I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to embarrass myself. I'm going to embarrass my family for generations, like all this irrational thought comes into your head, or like, oh, look at that guy's so fast, or that guy's what gets you going in the start that you're like, okay, I am completely convicted. I'm committed to what I'm doing.
I mean, isn't it weird that we think that way, though? I'm glad you said that, because, I mean, at the top of Kitzbühel this year, I was just like, this could be it. And then you push out of the gate and go. Like, we're crazy.
Then it starts beeping, right? This could be it. Beep, and you're like, okay, now you've got 5 seconds. Like, okay, change your mindset.
You're like, well, I guess I'm going. Yeah, we're a little nuts in that sense, I guess. But I think it is that doubt is what actually heightens your senses. It's what brings you to that state of clarity and focus when you are going off these jumps, sailing 60 meters into these highly compressive turns. And then you're thinking these weird thoughts. Like I was coming into the carousel turn near the top of the course in Kitzbühel, the Hahnenkamm, and I was like, wow, like that was really cool. Man, you're just like thinking through these things. This is weird, because right up on top of the course, you had all these doubts, but you're like totally fine. That's going through my head. I'm just like, why are you thinking about this, man? Like,
focus.
Look ahead and go and do what you're supposed to do, But it just flows through your head at such a quick rate, because you are processing all this information around you. Just anyway, the triggers for me, it all comes down to preparation, through training, creating habits, good habits. Number one, you have to understand, what is it I'm trying to do? What is skiing? What's the proper technique? How do things need to be aligned? How do I need to execute this? Like all those things. If you have a good understanding of that, you're going to have a good roadmap to know where to go. It can be coaches that help you. It can be personal study. It can be whatever. So first, have a good understanding of what you're trying to achieve.
You don't jump into it like, hey, I'm going to run a downhill. I'm going to go run Kitzbühel today.
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
It's been, I mean, I'm 40. I'm 20 years on the ski team, so it's been a long time doing a lot of this stuff and creating these habits. But then in training, really, we don't have a lot of time on the hill. Like, yeah, we're going to go out, we're going to train, but we're going to take 4 to 6 runs, and then you're just too tired. And those 4 to 6 runs are maybe a minute long, and so you get 5 minutes of training a day, and you get maybe 40 to 50 days of summer. Like that's not a lot. And they talk about the 10,000 hour rule. Like I don't think we've hit 10,000 hours. So when you're actually trying to perform training wise, make sure you're doing it right. Make sure you're creating those habitual patterns to where when it comes down to race time, you're naturally going to do the right thing. It's not a hope. It's not, oh, we'll see how this goes type thing. It's like, I know I'm going to do the right thing. I know I'm going to put myself in the right position. And now all I need to focus on is going in that drive and just pushing for more. If you're in race mode and you're thinking about techniques or like minute tactics, you're going to be slow. You need to just go and be willing to throw it down the hill and not have all those thoughts in your head. So training, create those good habits, create that confidence through high repetition, and then trust yourself on race day. And a lot of my key words, I have 2 to 3 micro goals a day. Usually in training, it's technique based. And then in racing, it's all about energy based, energy, movement, going, driving, active, stuff like that. It's just simple words like that I tell myself to get myself in the mode.
Yeah, because the opposite is not, active versus passive. Passive, not a good way to go when you're running downhill. How does the VR stuff work? You have it at the ski team, right? Where you have where you can run some of these courses during the summertime as part of your training, right? Is that what I've seen?
There's like a sim machine, and it's interesting, it's fun. But when you're running the downhill on the sim machine, it's nowhere near the same. Like, they put forces on you and you're like leaning side to side, but you're kind of wrapped in this confined piece of equipment.
Right.
And it's fun, but when it's actually this like track that's quite wide, it's I don't know, 20 yards, 15 yards wide, and it accelerates you side to side, and you get some G forces, and you're in fairly proper body position. I use it more as step level 1, like once you're getting back on skis, can you handle that? Can you help create endurance with that? Are you once you build up that endurance and is your body reacting well, then okay, I can start taking this to snow. And then I use it. It's a simple slalom course or a GS course in that machine, and I just go side to side, and I'll set a timer for a minute, and then a minute and a half, and then 2 minutes, and just build that strength endurance up. I love skiing because I mean, I may sound cocky, but it builds superhumans. it does, mentally, physically. When you're skiing, there's so much going on at a resort. I mean, you have people moving, you have the trees, you have the snow, you have the changing snow conditions. You have the light going in and out of the shadows. You're constantly processing all this information, so you're very aware. I think it creates awareness. I've definitely seen some non-aware skiers as well, but it creates awareness. But also the forces, the vibrations, the G forces you face. Your body's off axis. The stress it puts through your core and your legs and your knees. And then you're just balancing on a thin metal edge on ice, essentially. So the balance and coordination it also develops is quite impressive. It's just naturally a beautiful sport in that sense. Then there's the mountain. The mountain, you start on the bunny hill, and that's challenging enough. You're trying to figure out how to stand on your skis, and then that becomes more natural, and then you're moving up to blue squares and feeling more comfortable there, and then you want to challenge yourself on a black diamond and go steep and get in the moguls and get in the powder, and you always have the opportunity to step it up and challenge yourself in a different way and gain that confidence. I think it's just a beautiful sport in that sense, because it helps develop the human naturally.
The ice that you were talking about too, I don't think that the general public understands what you ski on. Like, I watched a couple of years ago, they had a YouTube thing where they opened up Kitzbühel after the race, and they let the general public go through the start. And it was basically one turn, slide into the fence kind of thing out of the start. Like, it is so completely bulletproof when you guys are skiing. Can you describe what the snow conditions you ski on are like in a way that we lay people can actually understand it?
Back in the day when I was a kid, Billy the Kid was doing a lot of the ski commentary, and I forgot what race it was, but he showed up on ice skates, and he was just ice skating down the mountain. Like, it's that hard of ice. It's legit hard ice. and you can rip down it on ice skates. Why is it that way? It's reactive. It's the most fair. It's not going to break up and get worse for guys further in the back of the pack. It's the most consistent from the first bib to the last bib. And when you push on your ski and tell it to do something, it's going to do it at that exact point because it reacts immediately. And that's what's important as well. If it's soft snow, there's a delayed reaction, and it can catch your skis and take them this way or that. It's just not as safe. And I enjoy the ice. I enjoy the fact that they shut down the mountain top to bottom on this one run, and nothing's in your way except trying to make some gates, and you get to challenge yourself and push yourself to the limit. Like it's a beautiful thing. But the snow, our skis are ice hockey blades, and the first training run in Kitzbühel this year, actually, I went down and I looked good, but you could just see me trying to squeeze and balance and stay on top of my skis, but there wasn't a lot of power and energy in my skiing. And it was just because my skis were a little too dull. And I asked my guy for a little more edge, and he put it on there, and I felt much more in control. So you need razor blades on your feet, and I wear cut-proof underwear just in case something goes wrong and the ski hits you and cuts through you. It's the real deal, and it hurts to fall on it. You're not slowing down.
No, you're actually picking up speed half the time.
Yeah. But I was in Kitzbühel a few years ago, and I like inspecting at the end. I like guys to clear out so I can see where I'm going, what I want to do. And so I was just standing at the start of Kitzbühel, just like waiting for things to clear. And all of a sudden, bam, I just get taken out, and I had no clue what was coming. And it was actually one of the head dudes at the Blick newspaper from Switzerland. And he'd been down the course plenty of times, but he kicked out of the gate. Or didn't even kick. He probably just side slid out of the gate, but he just didn't have enough edge. And he fell over, and then his ski pinged off, and he just slid right into me and took me out. And it's chaos, man. You got to have your head on a swivel on a lot of these courses that they ice.
It is, and it's the grip, but then it's also the unpredictability too. Like if you don't have pressure on your skis can just drift one way or the other, and you thought you had a ski here and suddenly you don't have a ski to go on to. I mean, it's just mentally, it's fatiguing to stay on top of your skis the whole time. You said that you're a downhiller. In your mind, have you always been a downhiller? Like from a little kid, was that your mindset? Was that of a downhiller? I know you won the world juniors in slalom, but were you always a downhiller mindset wise?
Have you read the Malcolm Gladwell books?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. There's, forgot the name of Talent Code, maybe. Like they trace back through a lot of these high performers' histories and figure out that they created a lot of their abilities unknowingly through their youth. And I grew up in Sundance, which is a little resort in Utah, and they have a front mountain and a back mountain. And we'd ski from the back mountain around to the front mountain. And it's this run called Toilet Bowl, which was it had a little steep section and then just really flat across this long, flat cat track. And the BYU ski team would train there, and I'd chase those guys around. I'm just this little kid, so I don't understand physics. I don't understand mass and gravity and momentum, and so I'm just trying to figure out how to glide and stick with these guys. And over all those years of doing that, I think I honed my gliding skills naturally. But I grew up racing on K2, which wasn't known for their downhill skis. I was a slalom skier. We had a short little mountain, short little training hill. And I became good at slalom. And then when I won World Juniors in 2002, I was actually given a pair of Fishers, and I tried them and was like, wow, I feel like a god, and just went there and won. I wasn't on the US ski team. I'd never been invited to any US ski team, anything. I was on 90s stretch pants that I got for $10, and I beat every junior in the world, which was pretty sweet. And they're just like, who are you? And I had a downhill suit I had cut the bottom off because it's full of holes, and I just wore that top and a backwards hat and some goggles. Like I was a goofball, man.
These guys look at you like you were making fun of them. Like you show up, like here's this guy. I mean, this is like hot dog or something like that. Like this guy straight off the street who goes and beats everybody at the World Juniors. Are they like, who are you? What are you doing? And you making fun of us?
Kind of. It was I was on the podium with Axel Svindal and Marc Berthaud, both great World Cup racers. I mean, Axel's one of the best of all time, and he was favored to win everything that World Juniors, and he didn't. I don't think he won anything. Maybe the combined he won.
He was probably skiing World Cup then.
Yeah, he was already skiing World Cup, and we're on the podium, and he's like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he says, "Have you skied World Cup?" And I said, "No." And he's like, "Have you skied Europa Cups?" I said, "No." I skied a couple NORAMs. And he's just like, "How did this guy beat me?" You know,
Coming straight off the NASTAR hill. Yeah.
Yeah, raced a bunch of NASTAR. From there, I was given the Fisher skis and was like, wow, downhill's way easier too on these things, and I'm fast. And naturally, I actually broke my leg that spring skateboarding, and it hurt to make quick turns. So my slalom kind of took a hit, but I just started skiing speed and was like, wow, I can have horrible runs doing this and still have a ton of fun. Whereas in slalom, if you're having a horrible run, it just feels bad top to bottom. But in speed, you're just like, whatever, it's still fun. And yeah, I picked up speed and had quite a quick ascent with it. I became national champion in downhill, like Placid in 2003, maybe 2003, 2004. Then I won the first Europa Cup since Bill Johnson, 2004 as well. And then the next day in Altamark Zalkensee, and the next day in the same hill, same race, I crashed and broke my leg. And then that next year I came back, got a World Cup start right through the NORAM tour, which typically I was never good at. Like I really didn't ski that well because it tends to be softer snow. But the last two races were in Mammoth in the spring, and it iced over, and I just was comfortable and crushed it. And then I went to the World Cup, and they expected me to have a couple races and then move back down to the NORAMs. And the first race in Lake Louise, which I struggled to get top 10 in NORAMs, I was 17th in the world. And I was just like, this is way easier. It's ice, it's strong, the responsive snow. This is like so much better. I better make the best of this and not get back to the NORAM tour where I'm just getting beat. And then Beaver Creek, I was 23rd or 4th or something like that. And then Val Gardena, I was really fast in the training runs, crashed. Bormio, top 30. They just kept bringing me to the next race because I kept scoring top 30s. And by the end of the year, I ended up qualifying for World Cup finals in Border, Sweden. So very cool.
What was the body transformation like when you were a slalom skier? Because you're like 6'4", 220-ish, that kind of thing now?
Yeah, I was probably 6'4", 190. I was a little string bean. I wouldn't fit in those stretch pants anymore. But yeah, obviously weight and momentum is key in downhill, and I got bigger and I lost those slalom skills. But maybe after I retire, I might take up slalom again and hit some master slalom races. It's still in there, and I'm a slalom skier at heart. I love it, and I wish I could do more of it. I really enjoy skiing slalom and the quickness and the on cue adaptations. It's just like I gotta adapt, I gotta change, I gotta move. You know, it's like downhill. You have so much time to think and really focus on points and move to these points and take your time, and you deal with a lot of that fear. Whereas slalom is athleticism. It's just going out and I don't, at least now, I don't have that vision of what I need to do in the course. It's more like, yeah, just try and make it down. So yeah, I really I enjoy it, and slalom is part of my heart, but I am a slalom skier at heart, I should say, but I just downhill it's free, it's wild, it's raw. It's a lot of fun.
Do you see the mountain differently being a downhiller? Like a slalom skier, like there are changes in terrain. There's a steep pitch, there's a knoll, there's a flat, there's a fall away, there's this and that. But as a downhiller, it just seems like you get to see the whole thing all at once, kind of thing, all the contour of the mountain. Do you feel like are you connected to the mountain in a different way as a downhiller than you are as a slalom skier?
Even as a slalom skier, free skiing, I'd always just make too big of turns and start going too fast. So I love in downhill, yeah, that it's just everything's open and the high speeds, and you see different things. And the way I free ski, skiing powder, just looking at the banks and the terrain and how you move over that and how you handle it, there's just a comfort at moving at speed. Whereas in slalom, I think you want to turn, you want to control your speed a lot. I remember watching a Warren Miller film back in the day, and Bodie Miller went to Alaska, and I was like, oh, I'm so stoked to see Bodie ski. And I mean, Bodie's one of the greatest downhillers in U.S. history, but he's also one of the best slalom skiers in U.S. history as well. And he was just making little slalom turns all the way down these big Alaskan peaks. I thought it was so funny. I was like, oh man, is he doing this on purpose, or is he just enjoying every single pow turn? Because you're used to seeing like the high throttle rock and roll music, big, just super fast turns, and he was just doing these tiny little slalom turns the whole way down.
And you never really know with Bodie though, too, right? Because it's whatever Bodie wants to do, kind of thing. That
exactly.
It fits him. That is hysterical. Now, I read I think it was in ski racing a while ago, that you went out to Mammoth for a camp, and that's where you really learned the air part of the game of downhill. Is that true? Is that
so? I just grew up in the rise of terrain parks.
Right. Yeah.
And we all like playing around in the terrain parks and the half pipes and feeling the jumps and learning the jumps. And now terrain parks are very, very vertical, and then kind of step downy, big drops, big jumps. In the beginning, it was a lot of length. There was a lot of length to these jumps, and it wasn't really kicking you high. So you could go over them with your speed skis and practice your jumps. And the US ski team would also run these speed camps, speed skills, or I should say the Western region team was running these speed skills camps and building terrain, and we'd learn how to move over terrain and learn how to jump. And they ingrained those skills in us from a young age. This is even when I was on K2. So I had that skill set, and I learned so much from my actual current coach here on the US ski team. It was Randy Pelkey back in the day when I was on the Western region ski team. So they don't do that as much now, but I think that's an advantage that the Americans have, is that ability to deal with the terrain compared to the Europeans. And I think we should continue to focus on those skills and develop that advantage. You see in Gardena, we do well. I've done very well there. I've had 4 podiums there, won 3 times. Bryce Bennett just won there. The years that I've been on the ski team, we've had 6 guys in the top 10. We've had there's usually a couple guys in the top 10 every race there, and it's special. The hill calls to us, and I think it's just the development of those skills and that conviction and fearlessness when you're approaching a blind roll, and you know that you can handle it, you know where you need to go, and you're going to go there with full conviction, because if you do that, you're ahead of 90% of the field right there. So it's just something that I'm good at. I've developed through free skiing and through that terrain park kind of movement and the skills camps that luckily our coaches put us through when we were kids. And so in time, we actually now, as we started the brand American Downhillers, Marco Sullivan, he that was his web domain name. And I was like, dude, this is cool. This is good. Like, we need to create something with this. And he's done an amazing job at creating this brand. And we have products and we sell shirts and swag and now poles. But the big thing is it's all centered around camps for kids. And we bring the kids in the spring to Mammoth, and we teach them those skills in the terrain and how to move and how to adapt and read and play in the terrain on skis. And it's really cool to see the kids that arrive in the beginning and are scared and don't want to move over that terrain, but by the end of the camp they're going with full conviction and charging down the hill. And just seeing that progression over like a 5-day period is satisfying and a lot of fun,
because it's one of the biggest obstacles. I mean, you talk about that approaching a jump, and when you just see the valley below you, it looks like the snow just stops, and you're like, am I going to jump all the way like down into the valley? That to me has always been one of those moments of like, okay, relax, like be cool. It's all gonna work out if you're going in the right direction. But if you're really in charge, it's so great to feel like, yes, I know I can do this. And it's even cooler when you feel like, I know I can do this, and I don't know if everybody else thinks that same thing. So then you have an advantage, which is what you hope for as an athlete. And Doug Lewis talked about it on the American Downhiller podcast, where he said he was the first guy to do the camels at Gardenia. So you talk about you guys being good now in the air as Americans, but that was not always the case. And you know, it's part of where you have a bit of swagger, I'd imagine, on the World Cup.
Mm-hmm. And you can see it. You can see it in the guys. You can see it in their eyes in inspection. You can see it in the way that they ski. They're hesitant. They're on their heels, and you're like, oh yeah, I'll watch this. My greatest performance was Gardena 2014, and it hardly snowed anything that year. It was very thin, just icy and bumpy the whole way down. So guys were already just on their heels because they felt uncomfortable. And I won the first training run. I won the second training run by 1.5 seconds or something like that, because I didn't even ski well in the first training run and still beat everybody. Second training run, I nailed it, and I was like, oh, I'm so far ahead of these guys. But I knew on the race day somebody's got to step it up, and so I couldn't take it easy. I said, I'm going full gas, and I won by almost 4/10, and the next guy behind us was another 1.5 seconds. So it was really cool to have that conviction to execute the way I knew I had to and needed to execute, and do it, like lay it down. It was great. And knowing that everybody was pretty scared, and I had it. Like I just needed to, I just had that advantage, and it was a lot of fun to be that one holding the keys, I guess.
But that's also the goal of downhill in so many ways, isn't it? It's like it presents this challenge, which fosters this sense of fear. And yet, if you can meet that challenge and sort of disregard the fear or manage the fear or whatever it is, then you feel like you've really won. I mean, you won the World Cup, but you also won that personal battle too. Is that part of the satisfaction of being a downhiller?
That's the greatest satisfaction. I mean, like I said, with the kids ski camp, it's like every kid has their skill set, and every kid's coming in with a certain level of ability and fear in them. Yet, and skiing just in general develops that confidence of okay, I got to this level. I want to get to this level. Now I want to get to this level. You know, it's downhill is just the pinnacle of it all. It's you're vulnerable. You're in a tight spandex suit on a sheet of ice on a thin metal edge, wearing a little bucket helmet. Like you're not that protected. And I said that to the guys who run our World Cups. It's Marcus and Hannes. Like they're always trying to make it safe, and I'm like, it's never going to be safe. Like it's downhill. Like the more you try and control it, the worse it's going to get. Just let us go, and we will self-regulate. Just build the jump safely, and then let us go.
What do you think of the guys like Darren after retiring, came back and ran the Hahnenkamm.
It was like 10 years after he retired. That's
Right.
what was crazy.
And like hadn't trained, got out and got on his downhill skis like before they opened the mountain kind of thing, and made some big turns and went fast, and like, okay, I'm ready to go. Let's strip down and go through the like, compared with what you've been talking about where it says progression and you're prepared, and then somebody like that jumps in 10 years afterwards. What does that blow your mind?
A lot of people think he's crazy, and I talked with him, but he's not going 100%. And you have to execute certain scenarios. The mouth of folly, like that's intimidating and that's hard, but you're not going full gas into it. I think the intimidating part is the preparation of the hill, how icy it is, how much it just punches back at your body, and you don't get to train that, especially like he was going to Sun Valley free skiing in the morning going fast. Yeah, he feels the speed, but he's on like perfect Sun Valley groomers. It's not on this bumpy sheet of ice. So for him to get there and then probably have his eyes opened, it was impressive. But by race day, he was just like, I feel fine. And obviously I'm not going super fast. I'm just kind of cruising down the hill and making sure I take these turns with ease. I'm doing them properly, but without a lot of risk, and it's fun. If you had to do that and there's no worry about racing, about winning, I'd do it. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Because I think it's crazy. I look at it and go, yeah, I'm not getting in the start of a downhill again. Maybe, I'll run a GS, maybe, yeah, but no, I don't want to run a downhill.
Champ Series, baby.
Exactly. It was funny, like doing a little bit of research on you, in that your parents were both ski instructors. You and I share that, actually. My parents were both ski instructors as well. And my father was a teacher. My mother was a social worker. So it was not exactly this traditional ski racing demographic, right? Where you fit into that demographic. And how does that work with like looking at your children now? So you said your daughters are 1 and 4. And you kind of had to fight your way through and find a way to get out of school early so that you could go and train with the Park City team and those kinds of things. How do you look at it and say, okay, I don't want them to have the same struggle that I had, or it was good that I had that struggle, or they might not even be ski racers, right? But is that anything you think about when you're looking at your kids?
Definitely. I think about it a lot. Like, we didn't grow up with much. And I mean, I won World Juniors on $10 stretch pants I got at the Park City ski swap. Like,
hopefully those are framed in your house somewhere.
Yeah, it's what I thought it taught me was making the best out of what I had. And I hope I can instill that in my kids, but I've done well for myself. And my kids aren't living the way I lived, but my parents went above and beyond to give us every opportunity that we could have. And we were raised in the mountains in a wonderful community. And the mountains taught us so much. And I think it's important to bring have my kids in the mountains, have the mountains teach them as well. I think skiing, like I said, develops humans in a certain way, and a special way. And to have my kids ski is important. If they are attracted enough to ski race, great. If not, great. It saves a lot of money. But I want them to just find that passion in life, and I want them to find what excites them and go after it. And luckily, skiing was that thing for me. My brothers, I was actually, of my older and younger brother, I was the worst. My younger brother was so talented and incredible, but he just got bored of it and went to snowboarding, and then he went to ski cross, and then he was in the movies. And my older brother actually had an understanding of the sacrifices my parents were making, and I think he quit because he felt guilty. And I was just too naive to the situation, just like so focused on my goals. So I feel lucky to have had that opportunity, and giving my kids the opportunity to find out what they want, what they love, and hopefully go after it. But they have to work for it. And right now that's the phase. It's kind of like my daughter's, she wants all kinds of things, but I'm like, now you got to earn it. I'm teaching her how to earn it and work for it instead of just giving her stuff.
Which is awesome, because that's
And
some of what I look back on. Like with
Mhm.
my parents, it was the creativity to make it happen, and then also just the the emphasis on what was important. You know, the being in the mountains, the being together, the going places, like the vacations were going to ski races, which, I mean, I grew up on the East Coast. And so like those spring vacations, going to ski races were often like where you put the trash bag over, poke the hole in it and put it over your head. And you got the trash bag poncho because it's raining or freezing rain or whatever. It can get pretty ugly.
Fun vacation.
Fun vacation. Yeah, you're just hanging out on a beach, doing whatever. But it seems like that it was such an amazing education in terms of what you're talking about, sort of the value of money, the value of the experience.
But it's respecting, like, I earned what I earned my stuff. I bought my skis, I bought my equipment, I took care of it because I had to earn it. I had to buy it. I had to work for these things. So I had a ultimate respect. When I was a kid, a lot of kids had 2-3 pairs of skis, and I only had one, and I had to make do on all the events, and I had to take care of them. I couldn't just have a pair of rock skis that I'd ruin here or there. Like it was a respect for everything that I worked for. And I think that's something I'd like to instill in my kids for sure.
How does that work for you now? Because this has effectively been your business. I mean, you've been on the ski team now for what, 22 years? Is this what it is?
20 years. This is my
20 years. So 20 years, that's a long time to be on the ski team. But looking at how you work with your sponsors, and I'm perfectly happy if you want to mention your sponsor. We've seen Cliff a couple of times as you've taken a drink there. But like with the mortgage company and things like that, I mean, integrating that into your personal story, how does that fit with what your job is?
Premier Mortgage is my headgear sponsor this year, and they're fantastic. It's actually a friend of mine. He started the business and he sold it to this guy, Corey, and Corey was looking for basically a motivational speaker. The mortgage business is it's interesting. I sit in on these meetings and they fire people up and hype people up, and he wants me to hype people up through speech and through my results. So that it was more being kind of a public speaker at these events and at their team meetings. And obviously Cliff Bar is an active energy bar or sports bar or snack. I feel fortunate enough to had timed things right. I made the US team. I did well on the World Cup. I had 1 year with Darren, and then he retired. And when he retired, Spider was looking for a new guy. And I mean, there we are. I'm still the Spider guy. I just feel fortunate. And to me, it's those relationships. My story with Fisher and switching to Fisher, I've been with them ever since 2002. It's just not many people stick with a brand that long. And POC, when they created their helmet and goggles, the goggle helmet companies were kind of stagnant, and I was actually looking into create my own brand, and then Ted beat me to it. Had all these drawings and everything. It was really cool. It was fun to look into it. I was contacting some people in China, blah blah blah. Then POC came out with their stuff, and I was like, this is great. And I've been on with them since day one. So it's the relationships with those companies and getting to know the people that I know. And I think those are going to just be long lasting relationships. And now that I have a family, and passing on the love of the sport of skiing is super important to me. and portraying that through social media. I mean, when I was skiing, there wasn't social media in the beginning, and now that's like such a big part of it. And I think telling those stories and showing the love of the sport and the love of family and friendship and whatnot through skiing is super important. And I just think integrating it all and supporting companies that support me, but also I believe in, is super important. I think knowing that these people are passionate about the environment, people are passionate about their products, and they make good stuff. I don't feel like a salesman just selling whatever. It's something that I love and I think is good, and I give feedback and development and I help their brand become better. And it's a fun part of the game, and I feel fortunate to have it as my job.
How does that work as you're approaching, I mean, not pushing you by any means into retirement, because it sounds like you might well continue. What was it? Was it Bryce who said that you're going to ski until you're 50, or Goldberg? I forget who. What I've read, somebody said that, Nyman's probably going to go to 50. You're going to be like the Tom Brady of of the World Cup here.
Yeah.
But as you're approaching what might be retirement, for me, the hardest thing that I've done was retire from competitive sport. It was more difficult than it was to break my back.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I mean, just sort of in terms of identity, in terms of who I thought I was, what I wanted to do, how people saw me as well. And obviously, I mean, your wife has done a bit of this as well, sort of transitioning from skiing to business. And I mean, she's a badass in her own right, that's for sure. So I'd imagine you're not necessarily put on the pedestal at home. But how are you looking at that transition to whatever you might do next and building it through what you're doing now?
I mean, I've obviously acquired a lot of knowledge through ski racing, and it could be endemic, it could be right within the sport, but it's also just the work ethic and the ability to think outside of the box, the ability to get creative. That's what businessmen look for. And I think when I find that thing that I want to go after again, great. But I agree. I think it's going to be really hard. And I think it's a special thing to be involved with, is a group of people that are striving to be the best in the world. And what I've tried to do as of late, the past several years, is really pass on my knowledge and help the team become better and higher and more confident. And I think there's a lot of satisfaction with that.
How do you do that kind of thing? How do you do that, like helping the team to be better and more confident and those kinds of things?
Just pointing out their strengths, kind of guiding the vibe. Sometimes it's easy to get negative. It's easy to be critical. Sometimes it's hard. Some guys don't take criticism that well, but to go up to those guys and point out their strengths and then tell them how they can become better. Just simple coaching manners, or also calling other guys out that aren't respecting other dudes for who they are, but who they are is who they are. And this is family. You have to live with them. Like, you're not going to kick them out or anything. You complaining isn't going to make things better. It's just controlling little situations and helping people respect each other and support each other to bring out the best in each person. I think that's the way I go about it. And I know there's so much talent around us, and it's just like really reaching in, grabbing that talent and maximizing it.
And skiing is one of those challenging sports too, isn't it? That you're the only one out there. I mean, granted, you're part of a team, but when you kick through the start, it's just you out there. And so many people say, oh, well, confidence is the thing that allowed me to do it. You were talking about somebody running a line and going, I don't know if I can run that line. Like, that's not the line. Whereas if you have that confidence, you're going, oh yeah, no, I'm in on that line or whatever. And obviously you have to build that confidence. And it's so funny because it's a sport where it's so easy to get broken down because one person wins, and it's often about what you're not doing well. It's like, oh, you need to change this, you need to change that. And it's like, it can seem so insurmountable. But this idea of building the confidence, and if you're in a position where you're helping your teammates to build that confidence, it's a totally different paradigm, isn't it? I mean, it's a different paradigm for sport, which can make it more fun as you're going through the difficult parts.
Yeah. Well, when a lot of the guys, they love skiing. Everybody loves skiing. And they're like, oh man, it's snowing in Squaw. I want to be back in Squaw. And I'm like, you got a mountain shut down for you to race downhill, like look at this. Like, this is really special. Like, focus on this thing in front of you. And just like take it in. It's just such a rare, beautiful thing that you're able to work towards and maximize your efforts. But they also seek entertainment and want it to be fun. But the most fun you're going to have is when you win. Like, when you're successful and when you're winning and you are on point and you're doing what you are setting out to do, that's so fulfilling and so much fun. And that's what I push each other, is just push all the guys, is just to try and maximize themselves and push themselves to execute to their best of their ability, and I think that's the ultimate satisfaction. And then I know we have the talent to win, and if we're winning, like, things are great. Like, when Bryce won Gardena, it was a lot of fun. This is a team bonding and celebrating that thing, and Travis doing the same in Beaver Creek, getting on the podium and just kind of cracking that ice and relieving those nerves within the team. And I think it just opens people up to actually express themselves at a full manner. There isn't that pressure on us anymore.
Exactly. I'm sure and that is where you come back as a team, because you do need this support system in order to go forth and try to be your best.
And we're unique because we're unique because we don't live over here. We're a band of brothers. We don't go home. Like, I go home to my family a little bit, but like, we're a band of brothers traveling on the road over here. And a lot of those guys don't have that support system around them. They have each other. And so if we can be together and we can pull each other up, and when that guy who pulled you up is down and you pull him up, like, it's just going to pay off in the long run.
Will this make it to your daughters? You said they're 1 and 4. So you are coming to the end of your career sometime. We're not sure exactly when that might be, the end of your career, but at some point you will get to the end of your career. Do you have an idea of what you want your daughters to say about who you were as an athlete?
I didn't really think they'd really get it. I mean, I didn't know if I'd ski this long, but this year I think my oldest is getting it. And it was funny. She's like, she likes to see the red. And when it's the red, it's obviously you're behind. When you're in the green, you're ahead. And one of the races, Nell, my oldest daughter, Dad had a lot of red. And she goes, that was a lot of red, but we still love him. So, I mean, it's cool. She absolutely loves me and gets it. And it's tons of fun. And I mean, if I win, great. If not, she totally loves me and thinks I'm a hero, and I'm all about it.
Well, that has to be the greatest gift that you could receive. I mean, you're talking about winning is the thing, everything's happy when you're winning, but then I'd imagine when your daughter says something like that, it has to just like bring tears to your eyes, that you're like, oh, this is the coolest thing. And that's what an amazing human being who you can call your daughter. So,
Yeah.
Stephen, thanks so much for joining us for just, this has been a ton of fun just to talk to you about the stuff that you love and that you do so well. And thanks for sharing it with all of us.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure. And thank you to all of you for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed this conversation. The greatest gift you can give us is to like us, to follow us, and to tell your friends. You can watch this on YouTube. You can listen to it on Apple or Spotify and anywhere else you might find podcasts. So thanks a ton. We will see you for the next one. And again, Stephen, thanks again, and have a great rest of the year.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye, Chris.
Thank you for joining us. Please subscribe to Chris Waddell Living It for more stories on the adaptive community, the Paralympics, artists, athletes, entrepreneurs, experts in the experience of being human. Also follow us on Spotify, Apple, Facebook, and Instagram. I look forward to seeing you next week.